Welcome back. It is Monday, and of course, that means Don Fischer is here to join us, brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant in Bloomington. Don, I was just talking in the break about, I'm surprised your voice was able to hold up so well with Indiana going so deep into the Big Ten tournament. And we were talking about it had, and luckily, because they got to turn it right around and play again, and if they win, they got to turn around and play again at the end of the week.
Well, I don't think the NCAA selection committee did Indiana any favors. That said, they're in the NCAA tournament, and so to quibble about the fact that they're going to be playing a play-in game, number one, number two, they're going to go with 1 day's rest over to Portland, Oregon, fly all night, and have basically very little prep time to get ready for St. Mary's if they are able to beat Wyoming. And then, of course, then they would probably likely play UCLA in the next matchup. So 3 games in 5 days in your first week in the NCAA tournament. Not ideal, but nevertheless, we're in the tournament, first time in 6 years, and obviously everybody's happy about that.
Yeah, a great Big Ten tournament upset win over Michigan, then an upset win over Illinois, and nearly an upset win over Iowa, who would go on and win the tournament. Man, and I think that the way Indiana was playing, had they been able to get past Iowa, they stood a good chance to win that Big Ten tournament with as poorly as Purdue has been playing.
Right. I think that's exactly right. But you know what? Ifs, ands, and buts, and all those kind of things were. But the whole thing boils down to this. We saw Indiana finally find a way to win 2 basketball games in this Big Ten tournament. When they've been in those kind of confrontations in the past, as they did the previous week in losing to both Rutgers and Purdue late in the ball game, in this tournament, they learned how to win. And yeah, you could say, well, yeah, they had the same opportunity against Iowa, and Iowa beat them. Well, again, they beat on basically a 35-foot shot that banked in by Jordan Bohannon, which he's done to Indiana before 3 years ago. Did exactly just about the same kind of plays in the ball game and in an overtime game against IU. Had a 3-point shot that went in to send it into overtime, and I think he had 2 more threes in that overtime period. When Bohannon's on, he is on. And certainly the last 3 stages of this game against the Hawkeyes, he was on again, and he buried Indiana with that shot. But nevertheless, I still was so happy to see this Indiana basketball team find a way to win ball games and play 3 straight days as hard as they could play. That, to me, was critical.
Yeah, I mean, watching them against a team like Michigan and Illinois, who number 1 seed, I thought that they were the favorite to me to win the tournament, and to watch Indiana play the way that they did for the entire length of the game, to not give up no matter what the circumstance was. That was the first that I had seen with any consistency this year, and man, they looked really good doing it. Xavier has been doing the things that Xavier's been doing, and Trace Jackson-Davis, for the times that he's kind of disappeared at times, he went nowhere. He took it to these teams in a way that I have not seen him play this season.
Well, that is true. And think about whatever happened at halftime in the Michigan game, whatever Mike Woodson said to Trace Jackson-Davis, it put a burr in his saddle and underneath his saddle, and he was a different player. The second half of that ball game, and then, of course, in each of those ball games following it against both Illinois, because look what he did against Kofi Cockburn. He looked like not that he was kicking his butt, because Kofi had 23 and 10, but he was going around Kofi Cockburn in spectacular fashion, and had just a tremendous performance in that contest. You can take a couple of different things from these ball games, but Trace Jackson-Davis' level has improved dramatically in this tournament. Xavier Johnson has continued his progress as a terrific point guard with almost 17 points and 7 assists a ball game in the tournament. He continues to ramp up his best play of the season, and this is exactly when you need it. And Mike Woodson, whatever he's done with Xavier, how tough he's been on him throughout the year, it's all come to fruition and paid off here at the end.
Now Indiana has to play a Wyoming basketball team that very little familiarity with, because they play in a conference that there's no familiarity with. They're obviously from out west, so there's not any common opponents. That I'm sure there might have been, but as a norm, so very little that you know about a Wyoming team that makes it into this tournament.
That's exactly right. This is going to be a challenge. There's no question about it. They've got a 25-8 record. They finished 13-5 in their conference. Boise State, who is their conference champion in the Mountain West, beat them 3 times this year, including once in the tournament, in their postseason tournament, to knock them out. But they are a ball club that's had a terrific year. Second-year coach Leon Rice, who's done a really nice job with this team. And they've got some guys that are going to test Indiana. Graham Ike is a 6'9", 245-pound sophomore that is averaging 19 points, almost 20 points a game, and 10 rebounds a game. This guy is a load. They've got a kid named Hunter Maldonado, a 6'7" point guard. He's a senior. He is averaging 18 points a ball game and has 202 assists on the season. So this guy is talented and really good. And they've got a nice cast around these guys. And it's a big ball club. I mean, not giant, but it's a big ball club. They've got a lot of big 6'7" guys out there, 6'8" in that ballpark, 6'5" and 6'7" at the guard spots. It's going to be interesting to see how Indiana deals with a Wyoming team they've never seen, a ball club that obviously plays quite well. Maybe hasn't been as strong down the stretch as they would like, but all I can tell you is, and I don't know that much about them, I just know this: when you get into the NCAA tournament, you better have your best play is going to have to take you as far as you can go, and you can't think anybody is an easy mark, because we've seen how many upsets in the NCAA tournament there have been over the years.
Well, no, and especially because now you've got a Wyoming team who is going to get to play in Indiana. That does not happen every day for these guys. And I don't care what anybody says. It's still a thrill for these guys who are normally playing Boise State and whomever else that they're playing. They're not playing the likes of an Indiana. And so, man, those lights do shine bright. And it's a target that is on Indiana's back, because that would be a win for the ages for those kids. I mean, to be able to say that they beat Indiana in the NCAA tournament. So everybody in Indiana, no matter where they are, whether they're a top 3 or 4 seed or they're a 12 seed, they're going to get everybody else's best shot.
That is true. Absolutely. Whether you believe this or not, and I've seen it through the years, when these teams come to Indiana, the teams in non-conference play, and they've never been in the assembly hall, they are always talking about, man, this place is special. They like the hall, number one. They like the look of it, the different look of it, because it's different than any place else they've been. And, of course, they all know the tradition of Indiana, even though the Indiana tradition hasn't festered itself here lately like you would hope or like you would have expected. But the Bob Knight era was so great. And it still is what lingers in people's minds about Indiana University as a basketball power. And we've been there a few times since Bob Knight was let go, but nevertheless, it hasn't been consistent, nor nearly as much as we would like. And the fact that Indiana hadn't been in the NCAA tournament in 6 years. So that's why this is special.
Now, I hate to get ahead of ourselves, but since we won't get a chance to talk to you in case Indiana does beat Wyoming, they will go on to Portland, like you said, and play a St. Mary's team, who is the only familiarity we have with them is the fact that they are the team that plays Gonzaga every year. That's how St. Mary's gets their notoriety. That seems to be the only team that gives Gonzaga any trouble up in their conference.
Well, and that familiarity is why. And St. Mary's is well coached. They've got a good team. They're not in Gonzaga's category, but they are a very good basketball team, and they cannot be taken lightly either. I don't know a thing about them this year. I've not seen them play. I haven't read anything about them. I've been prepping since last night's draw just to get ready for Wyoming, working on that. It took me about midnight before I was able to get back to bed, and I still haven't seen anything on St. Mary's. I do know that Indiana, if they beat Wyoming, they will play St. Mary's on Thursday, and then if they win again, they will play on Saturday, likely against UCLA, who plays Akron. Akron's a good ball club, but I don't think they're in that category with a UCLA. They're number 4 ranked team in the country. So you have 3 games in 5 days in the NCAA tournament. That's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that for you as well. I mean, have you ever done this many games in this short of a time? I'm thinking it's like 6 games in 10 days.
Yeah, well, we're going to test the vocal cords, that's for sure. But I was like I told you before we went on the air, I felt pretty good about the fact that all 3 of those ball games were exciting, and you had to use the voice and project and all those kinds of things, and it held up pretty well. But we'll at least have a day's rest in between each one now, so that might seem like it's a vacation.
Well, I meant as far as the preparation, man, because I know how much prep you have to put in for every game, learning, especially now. It's even harder because, at least with the Big Ten season, we played them before. We've got to update some stats, and is this player hurt or whatever. But now it's all new, all new players, all new stats. Everything is new, and every game it's brand new.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of reading involved. Obviously, you're trying to bone up on the opponent just to see exactly what they do, how they go about their business. You've got to set up I try to set up interviews with the opposing coach or whoever they allow me to talk to, because a lot of times when you've got the short turnaround, these coaches are so busy they don't want to do a lot of extra radio stuff. So more than likely, we'll probably get the color commentator or somebody like that for that interview. But there's a lot involved, and the preparation involving every ball game that you do, it always requires a great deal of reading and that kind of thing. And then, of course, taking notes and getting your I keep my own score. I keep my own little stat sheet during a ball game and stuff, which, it's right there. You can see it, kind of get a close up if you want to.
Yeah.
You can see it. But I mean, I put this thing together, and I've been doing this for years. Here's the thing you got to know, Jim. I'm an old man. I've never changed how I've gone about doing broadcasting since I had my first job in this business. And a guy told me, he gave me 5 hours of his time, showed me how he prepared for ball games and that kind of thing. I took what he did and maybe enhanced it just a little bit. But I've been doing it the same way for the last 4 years now that I've been in this business. And honestly, I can't do it any differently because I'm stayed. I can't go any differently. So it takes a lot of time, but nevertheless, I'll be prepared for the next 2 ball games, at least, who I think is going to play, but I've got to do this little stat sheet to get ready for the other teams out in Akron, as well as UCLA, St. Mary's, and obviously Wyoming. So got a lot of work.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
St. Mary's lost to Wisconsin by 6. Bill told us. And let's see. Forrest said he's seen St. Mary's several times. Very well coached. Good 3-point shooting. Not very physical. And St. Mary's also beat Notre Dame. So there's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, well, that's saying something, because they, like I said, they're a really good basketball program. They've been coached really well throughout the years. It's going to be a challenge, and obviously, we hope we get there. That's the main thing. Get there.
No, and Notre Dame actually is the reason that Indiana is having to go through all this stuff, I think, actually, because they played in the regular season. Those 2 were the 2 last teams in, which I'm still having a hard time believing that. But they were the last 2 in because they played. They wouldn't let them play. And then that left Rutgers. So that left Indiana playing Wyoming. And so it's kind of how this whole screwed up thing got started. But that's where we are. But I'll let you go so you can begin your traveling.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. No question about it. But you know what? Again, Indiana's in the NCAA tournament. That's what the fan base has been screaming for the last 6 years now. And it came to fruition. And now if Indiana can do something with it, it's going to be a lot more fun than we had anticipated, especially a few weeks ago.
Well, the fans are certainly seem to be loving it, man. They are absolutely here for it, and as are we, and here for you. And make sure you catch Don's broadcast. Do you guys have any pregame specials or anything like that other than the normal broadcast?
No, we just do the normal broadcast. Coaches will not do talk shows now, or they're too busy with what they've got to do in preparation and that kind of thing. Our last talk show was prior to the Big Ten tournament, so yeah, we got no specials or anything like that. I don't know what you would do on a special because you can't get coaches or players because they're involved in their preparation. That's really hard to do. Obviously, you could put together something, I suppose, with play-by-play and things like that to go over the season, that type of thing. But nobody thought of it.
I love that. I love that. Well, Don, it has been a while. It has been a while. So, man, I can't thank you enough. I look forward to seeing you over in Dayton.
All right. Sounds good, Jeff. See you.